Are you sure you want to deal with
Are
that?
you drinking fucking whole milk live? You bet your ass, Sith. Fucking love milk.
It hits different, apparently, which I'm pretty sure just means that there's arsenic or something in it.
That's fine.
Or it's just a whole bunch of milk and magnesia.
I've given life a good go.
You're just gonna.
It's just melted down asbestos. It goes down smooth.
It's an insulation that's just been boiled down. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Do you have an ad read?
I do have an ad read.
All right, cool. So we have ad read, tournament, chapter, main segment. Sounds good?
Yep.
Sounds great. Let's fucking do this, baby. 136.
Are you tired of flying through the verse with no backup? Is your cargo ship starting to look like a target for pirates, bounty hunters, or that one guy in the cantina who just won't stop giving you the stink eye? Well, it's time you get yourself a Mirai Guardian, the premium security you need from the best of the best. Introducing the Mirai Guardian, your personal bodyguard in the vast expanse of space. Need someone to protect you during a risky haul across Stanton? Mirai Guardian's got you covered. Entering a heated dogfight near Crusader? They're right there, guns blazing, keeping your six safe. Pirates? Not on my watch. Bounty hunters? They won't see me coming. Need a landing zone cleared? I'll clear it, and I'll look good doing it.
Ooh.
From combat support to just making sure your precious cargo doesn't get accidentally misplaced, the Mirai Guardian is trained in the art of both defense and diplomacy. They'll handle the threat while you focus on, being rich. I didn't sign up for your luxury yacht parties, but fine. I'll make sure your shipments make it. Who needs a fancy ship when you've got a Mirai Guardian at your side? These highly skilled veterans are equipped with state-of-the-art tech, tactical expertise, and a deep disdain for anyone messing with you. Whether you're hauling valuable goods or just trying to enjoy a peaceful flight through the verse, these Guardians know how to take care of business. Call now and get your Mirai Guardian on standby. And because we care about your safety, we're offering a special deal for first-time clients. Book a Guardian today and you get 10% off your first successful bounty retrieval. Just don't ask them to negotiate with the criminals. Trust us on that one.
There's a few words there you were stumbling on. I liked it. Dude, that thing is so fucking cool. The Guardian.
The Mirai Guardian is such a cool ship. Also, we have no ability to offer 10% off.
No.
Just throwing that out there.
At all. Chris Roberts, I apologize for that.
It looks like a TIE fighter, but it kind of looks like the stealth version of the TIE fighter.
It's I like to say we don't need a fancy ship. I'm like, it's probably the fanciest fighter you can actually have. Dude, and I was already in love with it. I was like, oh God, an elevator. There's the bed. There's the kitchen. It's got a fucking shower and a bed in it. You got a weapons locker. You got a suit locker. You got an engineering bay. Yeah. And then when I saw on the front arms, there's a weapon rack on one of the arms to the left and a personal storage on the other one. I was like, are you kidding me? That's so brilliant. Even if you can't get into the ship or you don't need to go all the way in, like you can just grab and go from there. It's just, like you said, it's perfectly set up for just being a mercenary badass.
It is one, and I mean, as far as I'm aware, it's one of the only one crew heavy fighter ships too.
It's the only. I feel like there's another one person heavy fighter.
It's the only one with a bed
only one that
and
has
a shower.
Yeah, it's the only one that's self-sufficient, and the first ship from Mirai that has a quantum drive and everything in it. Like we only had the snub fighters before, and I remember when they first came out with the snub fighters. I was like, I love this design, and to have like a heavy fighter from them, oh baby,
yeah.
Apparently, Drake's coming out with a heavy fighter this year, is what the rumbling has been going on about. Yes.
See, I was looking at the Buccaneer because you were talking about it, and because it's one of the cheaper fighters. That and the Arrow, weirdly.
I love. Well, the Arrow is just like the bread and butter of light fighters. It doesn't have as many guns, but it's super fucking quick. You know what I mean? Yeah. But yeah, the Buccaneer, dude, it's slower. It used to have 2 shields and now it only has 1, but
Right.
the sheer amount of guns you can put on that thing is dumb, and it's so great.
Yeah. I really liked the Hornet when I was flying it. That was a good one. I also, because I wanted to get the Gladius, but it's like 4 million. And I'm like, ugh, it's going to take forever. And by the time I actually get 4 million together, that's probably when they're going to be like, hey, 4.0 tomorrow. And I'm going to be like,
that's the thing is like a lot of these ships I'm kind of waiting to grind for, like when 4.0 actually becomes the live service, the server. And then I'm like, then we can actually, because there's stuff like I could definitely grind and make money a lot faster, but I'm like, I don't want to because I know it's going to get wiped soon. And then that's it. That's the only wipe we have to worry about. But it's just knowing at some point it's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's one of those things where I'm like, really, what's the difference?
Yeah.
Even if I move to 4.0, I'm not sure that transition when they actually bring it down is going to keep. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, enough about that. Enough about the Mirai Guardian. Welcome to Just Some Mirai Guardians.
Just some gamers?
Just some gamers. Mirai gamers. Mariah Carey.
It's just some gamer guardians.
Just some gamer guardians. Episode 136. Dude, we're in the back half heading towards another game show. I got to get my brain pumping and rolling.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
It feels like the game shows are like, because you would think every 10 episodes, like, I'm like, gosh, we just did a game show, but it's also been like 3 months.
Yeah,
because
it's true.
That is 10 weeks, which is almost 3 months.
Pretty, two and a half, something like that. Yeah, it's a good amount. It always sneaks up on me though. I'm like, oh fuck, that's today.
Right.
Yeah, but that's whatever. Speaking of today, it's what?
We're on
136.
We're 136. Okay, so you still got
I still got a month to forget about it. Yeah. No worries. Yeah, and Mr. Forgetful, it's me, Elmer Fudd, and as always, by my side, my trusty sidearm, the man of my dreams, the calf to my thigh. It's the effervescent
the calf to your thigh.
The calf to my thigh.
I'm
Together
not sure.
we're a leg.
See, I was never very good at those. What are they? The SAT, like the similes. A doctor is to hospital. As a captain is to what? And
Hooks.
You're like, I don't know, a ship? Like how is this indicating my knowledge of vocabulary?
Well, see, the reason you didn't understand it is because you're stupid.
And they're like, well, a doctor works in a hospital, but it can't be a captain is to ships because a captain is in charge of a ship. And you're like, that's dumb.
Yeah. Well, the Pirate Guild, like, what do you want from me? 7 pieces of 8?
An admiralty, I guess. I don't know.
Admiral, yeah. Well, like this thing is like captain. There's obviously the military rank and everything, but yeah, I immediately went with you to pirate captain immediately.
Yeah.
Is it because we were just talking about ships called the Corsair and the Buccaneer? Who knows?
Who knows? Probably. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, here's how the show is going to work today, folks. We actually have an outline that we made up seconds before beginning the show. I have an announcement to make, and then Russell has another glorious chapter of his book. And then we have a main segment, and then we're going to botch the ending, and then we're going to get out of here. Yeah, pretty simple stuff. I really thought that list was going to be longer and sound like we knew what we were doing.
More full, right? But it didn't.
Yeah.
I've done a couple of shows with Ranger.
Yes. I wanted to ask you about that. Yes, please, dude. You've done some other podcasts. This is so exciting.
And the show notes make me feel bad about what we do every time. Where I'm like, we don't do any of this.
I live for it, dude. I love our style.
We barely have a topic.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, hey, you want to talk about this? Yeah, sure. Occasionally when we do lists, I'll do them beforehand, so I'm not just pulling stuff out of my ass. But
yeah,
for the most part, it really ends up being I'm pulling it out of my ass.
Well, that's the thing is everything that good in my life has happened because of your ass.
I mean,
I'm just saying. It's just a fact, Jack.
You can have it anytime you want, baby.
I do like was it the Potato Thumbs podcast, right? Is they'll send you the show notes and they're like, add anything you want. And so you go into it and it's just like a blank slate with everyone's name on it. And I'm like, hell yeah, I like that. I respect the hell out of this.
That is essentially how we do our podcast every week.
Yeah.
We don't even have names though. It's just
do you know what we should do just to see how bad we do at it is episode 138. Okay. We are going to sit down and we are going to make intricate show notes and go off of this and like.
But here's the thing. For us and the way that we do things, I think adding actual notes would probably take away from what we have.
I agree. That's why we're doing it for 138.
There would not be chaos, mutual chaos. There would not be utter incompetency.
I think the last part would be there.
There is that tagline that we have to hold strong to.
I really feel like we have it in us to still fuck up an outline. You know what I mean?
I think, well, you're probably not wrong.
Yeah. Let's try it.
Probably not wrong.
138. We are going to make intricate show notes. Okay. We're going to have like 8 segments, right? And we're going to go through in certain time limits for each. And we're going to stick to it and we're going to rock and roll, dude. I'm going to set a timer. I'm going to set a timer with an alarm. All right. And when we get to that point, we're going to go to the next topic.
Look, not even Ranger could get me to stick to it. Because, like, the first one that we did, they asked me questions. So, of course, I start rambling and I start talking. And it was like 45 minutes of me just...
Sounds about right.
And they were like, well, now we know Russell's life story. So we can actually move on to the topic of our show. Yeah, I felt really bad. Ranger, I feel really bad. I love you. Thank you for having me on. I am sorry I broke things. Native, I missed you on the last one. I don't know if you're still here. You were in chat for a second.
Yeah. What were you... was it the DnD episode? Did you get to do that one?
Yep, we did.
Hell yes. Oh, I love that.
We did Marvel Rivals, was the first episode that I did with him.
I'm excited for that one.
And then we talked D&D, which was really, really fun. And it was really sad because Native was going to jump in there with us, and he couldn't get unmuted. Like, I heard him at the very beginning, but he couldn't hear us, and then he tried to join, and we couldn't hear him at all. So, like, throughout the show, you'd hear ding as he would, like, jump in and try to do something, and he just never could. And it was really disappointing because I really wanted to hear what he had to say, especially because the campaign that we're playing together was his second one, because you had played before, right, Native?
Correct. Yeah.
But I think Ranger, it was ridiculous. Native just said he spent 2 hours, and it was
poor guy.
It was
dude.
very, very sad. Like, it was, I felt for him because I would have already lost patience and probably broke something.
Well, and that's the thing is, like, because Native's smart. Like, he is a very handsome, smart man, right? And
emphasis on the handsome.
To make Discord work, there's not very many options, right? So when you're looking over everything and you're like, that's correct, and that's plugged in. That's it. Yeah. Like, why is this not working? It doesn't. And that's the most frustrating part. It's one thing if there's like 8 steps and you're like, all right, maybe here to here messed up and here to here, but there's 3 things and all of them are correct. You go, I don't fucking know.
Yeah. I can't believe he spent 2 hours on it. I would have spent 10 minutes on it and be like, I'm not showing up. Forget it. I'm out.
Lose my number, dude.
Oh, you had to restart your modem entirely.
Holy shit. Dude. That's insane. Ugh. But dude, I'm super pumped you got to do a couple extra podcasts, dude. That makes me so happy.
I'm doing one this Saturday too.
Where are you at this Saturday?
Ranger again.
Okay,
he asked
Ranger
me
again.
to be on because he saw behind me my magic cards and my mess that is on my couch. And so he asked me. I think they're talking the Magic the Gathering.
Dude, before you know it, you're going to be a co-host on that show too.
I think
be careful.
Lindsay. I think because Lindsay already, because I also didn't put it on her calendar this last week, and Lindsay was like,
"Where do you think you're going?"
Honey Boo Boo. Yeah, but you're, yeah, I am a mess. That's for sure. Yeah, she was like, "Hey, honey, boo boo, like that wasn't on the calendar," and she was really nice about it. But there was also like, there was that undertone, like
yeah, uh-huh.
when your wife is really really nice and forgiving about something, and you're like,
You can hear the teeth grating.
I might die tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Like that
She
might be
might
the
bring
end of
you a
me.
tall glass of milk that hits different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm crossing my fingers for you. You seem all right now.
So
Yeah, just
well, I'm excited to listen to all those episodes, buddy. I love his show. I love him. He DM'd me to be on that D&D, the D&D episode, but I was going to my in-person D&D game. I was like,
oh yeah,
I can't talk about it because I'm going to it. Sorry, buddy.
Right.
Like, yeah. Oh, I'm glad you got to make it though. That makes me happy.
It was really nice of them to invite me, and I've had a fun time being on their show.
And you know what? Everyone should invite you because Russell is an incredible human being. There's a reason why he's been at my side my whole life. Okay, why he's the calf to my thigh. Okay,
it's because he can't get rid of me. It's really what the reason
it's
is.
mostly it. When you didn't show up for 5 minutes earlier, I was like, oh my God, I'm fucking free. Like we did it.
Yes, he's gone.
Well, everyone out there, if you're listening to this and you have a podcast, fucking get Russ on it pronto.
I would be more than happy to. I love you guys.
Make sure he talks to his wife about it though.
Okay, so actually here's a funny story about the fried chicken. Sweaty Spook says I come with fried chicken, which is true for the most part. However, we're going on a cruise in a couple of weeks.
Yes,
we're going on a Disney cruise. I'm super excited about it. However, I have I'm almost to my mid-30s, right?
Okay, yeah.
And I have found that I am quickly becoming a fat lard.
Yep.
So I have really tried hard to not consume as much food. I still eat fried chicken. I just don't eat as much of it. Right. I don't eat it every day, just every other day.
Yeah.
Actually, I guess I can't say that because
here we go. And the truth will set you free.
We have like the Tyson, because Gideon is obviously my son because he really likes chicken.
Yeah.
He loves chicken. He loves fried chicken, especially. So we have like the bag of fried like Tyson tenders. And so I will make 2 tenders for me.
Yeah.
1 for him. And if he doesn't eat his tender or all of it, then
it goes to you. Yeah. Like a responsible adult.
And today I didn't eat fried chicken, but I did eat grilled chicken. So.
See, no, that's good. That's a good step.
It had bacon on it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that made it any better.
Well, no, it didn't. No. There's no comeback for that.
I wish I could come up with something for you.
Just to loop back around to 138 being our episode where we make a guideline. We made a loose one at the beginning of this episode, and we already fucking lost that.
Yeah. Well, look, this is why those people in Egypt tune into our show.
100%.
Because we are just winging it. We're 2 friends having fun, shooting the breeze.
Yeah, man. It reminds them of simpler times, you know?
Or worse times. I'm not really sure which.
Probably, yeah. We are a reminder how good they have it, I think.
I think that's probably
I think so.
true.
Yeah.
Maybe. Like,
maybe the government uses it as a torture technique and puts our podcast on, and that's all our listeners is the Egyptian government torturing people.
Yeah, I mean, that's where all the screams are coming from.
That's true. Yeah, makes sense. Okay, so should we attempt to go to the next thing?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Our announcement here, folks. On the 8th of February, a couple weeks out, depending on when this podcast goes up, right? Is my first attempt at a Marvel Rivals bracket style tournament. I've announced it everywhere today. In the description notes will be the link to the YouTube video, just giving all the information. I've only ever done like kill race, 2-hour, jump into public lobbies and rock and roll tournaments. I think I've done 53 of them, if the math is correct.
Goodness.
Between all the different games. So this is my first time doing something where everyone's in private matches and rock and rolling against each other. So I'm nervous and I'm excited. But yeah, so it's going to be 4 teams. That way it's still a lengthy occurrence, but enough that we can do it in one night instead of making it a multi-week. Your team needs to show up this day and this day and this day and whatnot. So bracket style, 4 teams, 2 and 2, they fight. The winners of those 2 brackets go against each other. After that match ends, the losers of the previous brackets go against each other. Whoever wins the loser match goes up to the second loser. Okay? And if they're able to win that, then they go up to whoever's been winning all the matches so far for a chance to come behind and win the whole thing. But
I like it when you come behind.
Hey. But if you're absolutely slaying out and killing everyone and winning all the games, you're going to have a clean sweep. But this way, there's a chance if you lose right away, you're not out immediately. You still get to play some extra matches and a chance to come back and win, which would be a really cool hero moment. But make sure everyone plays at least 2 or 3 matches within the allotted time we have. I think this will work great. Obviously, if things, if I'd love the feedback after this one ends to like move things around here and there as we need, but that's the basis of it. There is a Discord for the tournament. It's basically an open, like the 4 teams are open to be registered on. So if you have multiple people, just register in one of those teams. I already have quite a few solo people, so we can fill in there. And I don't think we're going to have a problem. We're going to need any bots. Like there's a lot of interest already. So
which team is Will on?
I don't know. It was funny. I DM'd like 5 people that I knew would be forming teams. Right.
Yeah.
And all of them wound up being on the same team as each other. So I was like, well, that backfired in my face. So
that backfired immediately.
There is a giant fight going on in the Discord right now over which team Beef is going to be on. And everyone is coaxing like the dog.
I really want Beef too. Yeah. I need Beef. I need Will. Can I just go ahead and call them? Like, can I just say you guys are on my team and everybody else can go?
I think that works. Yeah. No worries. No. Yeah, it's being recorded right now on a podcast that's big in Egypt. You don't get more official than that.
I mean, you can't, right?
Yeah, no, you can't.
I'm super excited about this. I think that this is going to be absolutely amazing. I have really enjoyed your Apex tournaments in the past and your Warzone tournaments when you had them. And Marvel Rivals is kind of the new hotness right now.
Yes.
And there's a bunch of people in our community that are super excited about it. And I am very excited about it. I am excited to play. I'm excited to lose badly and make sure that my team goes down in a flame of glory.
Amen, dude.
Or just a flame.
I like that. But yeah, no, I'm excited. Like you said, it's a little different. I had plans to do something like this for Overwatch 2, and then it didn't do as well as it could have, which makes me sad. But so it's something I've always wanted to do with these hero shooters, right? So I get the chance to do it. I've been practicing a ton with the, what's the word I'm looking for? Where you just watching other people? The
VOD?
No, not VOD. You go
the stream?
You click their name in game, and then you can watch the match they're in. What's the word I'm looking for? Spectator mode. Thank you. Fucking shit. Spectator mode. Because again, in the past, for shoutcasting, every team has someone streaming. I just pull the stream up. We talk about what they're seeing. But as a custom match, right, they have a great spectator mode. So I've been sitting there practicing because I want to hide the UI, so it's good for the viewer, memorizing the keystrokes.
Able to see between it. Yeah.
So I'm sitting down, I'm memorizing all the keystrokes for how the spectator mode works, so we can get that like Overwatch League style thing going and whatnot. Yeah.
I really like that.
I'm very
especially
excited.
When you're talking about. Well, I mean, I guess you'll have some teams playing at the same time, but for the most part,
well, it'll be how we're hoping to set this up. It's my fucking thing. How we're doing this is it's going to be it's one team at a time. We're not doing this jumping back and forth. Yeah. So it's bracket to bracket to bracket. So we can everyone can hang out for the night, watch everyone because everyone can spectate. So we can all spectate the matches and have a good time and watch that and see what happens. So.
I really love that. I think that is a brilliant idea. I think that you are awesome.
Thank you very much. I'm very excited. And on my banner, I love doing banners for these tournaments. I figured out a way to get a QR code on the banner that links to the YouTube channel, the YouTube video that has all the information on it. I was super excited about that. Yeah.
Dude, you are...
Listen, I'm still really fucking bummed about Paint 3D being gone, but it's forced me to actually learn how to be professional. I still hate it, but it's also been kind of cool to figure out how to look good, you know?
I mean, you always look good. So It couldn't have been that hard for you.
Oh, well, thank you. It was pretty tough, but I did it. Yeah. Also, just with rivals, real quick. Your boy Egg, the other night, as a throwaway thing, had a hilarious idea where he's like, "What if we all played as healers?" Right?
Yeah.
And so we went into a match, and then so we were discussing it back and forth, and we decided we should have 1 tank and 5 healers. And the discussion was going which tank it should be. And I can't remember whose idea it was, but they're like, we should bring Groot because if we put the walls just right, because of the enemies damaging and us healing, vines are coming out of the walls. So we technically have a DPS if the walls are placed correctly. And we laughed hysterically for about 10 minutes straight in this match, won by a landslide, right?
Really?
Barely died, right? So goddamn funny. I posted that to YouTube and it randomly popped off. It's my 3rd most viewed video. I'm getting comments like crazy. Like, it's been really cool. So, hey, Eggman, thank you, buddy.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that everybody should go to your YouTube channel, which you have.
Which I have.
Elmer Fudd Games. Double M, double D.
Double M, double D.
And you should watch this video and share it everywhere.
If you want to.
Do you have a clip of it on TikTok?
No, I have different clips from that night, but I'll get one of that one. But yeah. It was such a great fucking idea. And it was just like, yeah, why not? Let's just try it. And then the fact it worked made us like cry laughing. We tried it again like 4 matches later because we were losing. Like, let's do the strat. And then we just like, it got worse. So we're like, all right, maybe that's not the go-to winning strat.
Maybe this is not what we should do. Maybe, maybe this was just a one-off thing that's really hilarious, that when nobody's expecting it can be really bad, but otherwise, worst idea ever.
I did post this on the TikTok. We had Sith Daddy Fresh was standing close to a point, and I was like, hey man, don't go in there, you'll be all by yourself.
I saw that one.
And Fluffy goes, don't listen to him, you can take them all on by yourself. And they both jumped in and immediately died.
I saw that one and laughed so hard. I wish it was like, have you ever seen the Studio C sketch of like the shoulder angel?
Oh yeah.
I wish you had been able to like, I wish you had been like Jeff or something and riding on his shoulder, because that would have made it so
literally being on the shoulder.
Funny.
Yeah. Don't do it, Dan. Yeah. Oh, I've got a video coming out, I think tomorrow, of a match we did very good on. And like they attempted the, one of them was Wanda, right? And the other one's Jeff, where Jeff eats everyone and then throws them at Wanda as she ults, right?
Oh, yeah.
So the first time they attempted it, it did not go well. But in a later match, they did it successfully. So I spliced that into the end of the video, because at the end of the match, they were talking about it. I'm like, I can't believe we failed that so bad. So immediately after they talk about that, I spliced in where they're successful with it later on in the night. So good.
I love that.
The hype was real. It was a great night. Yeah. So Marvel Rivals,
I'm fucking great. I'm sad I missed it.
I know.
Where was I? Not there, apparently.
Not there. Yeah, it got posted everywhere that we were going to play, so not my fault.
No, it's not. No. I was probably busy. I've been busy this week.
Absolutely.
With business stuff.
Well, to the next segment, another long one, folks. This is gonna be a girthy episode tonight. I feel it.
It's gonna be a girthy episode. Yeah.
From great acclaim, right? Still to this day, so many people, positive feedback, loving this. No negative comments yet, which has kind of let me down.
Then now there will be some, just because. Yeah.
Please,
especially if Beef listens to the episode, and he'll be like, "This guy,
this fucking guy." So, as anyone who's listened to the show is aware, my dear friend Russell, right, the calf to my thigh, I'm going to make that a thing. It's sticking. It's sticking.
I really like it. I mean, it sounds like a thing already.
Yeah, I'm going to make a shirt out of it. Is writing a book. Right? We've had plenty of excerpts from it. One chapter read. Apparently, he has another chapter for us that he would like to share with you, the listener, as we enjoy the epic way in which he describes things. Is there combat in this one?
There's a lot of combat in this one. That is pretty much almost the entire. This chapter is a very action-heavy chapter.
Oh, baby. Fluffy, if you listen to this one, this is the stuff you can look forward to in combat in our D&D session.
That was fun, by the way.
That was really fun.
That was a lot of fun. Yeah.
We'll touch on that at the end.
Yeah.
All right, Russell, a chapter from your book that you are successfully writing, and I'm super proud of you. Take it away. Everyone get comfy and get a snack.
Yeah. I'm at 25,000 words, by the way. I'm 5,000 words away from being 1/4 of the way through.
Dude, that's a big milestone, though.
It really is. It really is. I've almost finished part 1. I'm going through. I'm revising. So this is part of chapter. This is part of
chapter
part 1. Yeah. So this is part 1, Awakening. This is chapter 3, and it'll actually end up being chapter 4, Ignoble Pursuits.
Ooh, we have a title for it already.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get comfy and get ready.
All right. Corvus warily spread his hands, palms out and away from his body, splaying his fingers wide. He peered at the wand and the flowing script that spiraled the length of it, marking its aether affinity. The runes glowed a faint indigo, galvanic. Hell's bells, Corvus cursed under his breath. Where in the God King's dust-filled bollocks had they gotten a galvanic wand? First the Vespers, and now this? The knuckle duster sure as shite shouldn't have this kind of firepower. The situation had gotten infinitely more delicate, a strand of hair holding a blade above all their heads. But if he was careful, he might be able to walk out of here without the usual body count. It was a commitment he intended to keep. This time. The knuckle dusters were spread out, circling wide around Jasper, prowling slowly to Corvus's flanks. They slipped from the periphery of his vision, wolves circling their prey, just far enough so that he would have to turn his head to see them. He didn't. Corvus stared straight down the barrel of the wand. Don't. His voice was flat, unwavering. I don't want to hurt you. He knew what they were thinking. They were desperate. If Corvus lived, they were all headed for the noose. But they had the numbers and the wand. They had him backed into a corner, one he couldn't possibly walk out of unscathed. They were wrong. He was out of starlight and its sluggish drain on him. Its restraint, its protection. Without it, he was exposed to the Everdark, and the gates were open. He was free. The knuckle duster lunged forward, thrusting his blade toward Corvus's exposed side. Corvus was still tangled in the tether, the wire restricting his movement. He wouldn't be able to move far. He didn't need to. He swayed his body away from the blade, letting it pass so close light wouldn't pass between them. He caught the man's blade arm, folding it in on the knuckle duster as his lunge carried him past. The man fell with his own hand, having punched the blade up under his chin. He gurgled in confusion as dark blood sprayed across the dusty stone floor. Corvus's eyes never left Jasper. His skin tingled, needles sharp and unpleasant, prickling unpleasantly. Corvus tried one more time. I don't want to do this. Please, don't make me. It was a lie. Corvus did want it. He wanted to lose himself, to loose himself. The beast he had kept chained inside wanted to stretch, to slick its thirst. Jasper narrowed his eyes. Corvus could see him thinking, hesitating. Jasper opened his mouth to speak, but it was drowned out by shrieks of fury and fear. 4 more knuckle dusters flung themselves at Corvus. They fell as quickly as they came, wheat falling to the side. Flashes of ruby light glinted around Corvus as he called his blood up, forming it back into a dagger, a frozen shard sharper than any razor. More blood, more cries, this time in pain. He stabbed and slashed, imparting a piece of himself into the fallen bodies, a virus sweeping through them. Corvus stood, unmoved in a pile of corpses, his breath pluming from his helm in puffs of silver mist. He was breathing heavy, not with exertion, but with excitement. His flesh was on fire, the shackles burning into him, restraining him as his power tried to burst free. He was on the knife's edge, dancing along a razor with an abyss on either side. The cold winds of the Everdark were singing in his ears, and he could see the lurkers still in that other world slavering at the barrier, waiting with absent, hungry eyes. One of the knuckle dusters, a woman, whimpered as she dragged herself away, leaving a wet, bloody smear along the ground. The rest of the knuckle dusters retreated, huddling behind Jasper. The stench of fear filled the warehouse. It mixed with the blood and viscera, forming a cocktail of intoxicating aromas. Corvus drank it in. It made his mouth water and his stomach churn, arousal and disgust warring within him. Jasper stared at him with wide eyes. Revulsion was painted with a thick hand across his face. I didn't want this. Corvus's voice came out husky, even through the helm's voice distortion. You made me do this. You butchered him? Jasper's voice was cold, distant. I'm sorry. It came out strangled, forced. Even in Corvus's own ears it rang hollow. He didn't feel sorry. Not really. He hadn't felt sorry in a very long time. All he felt was hunger, the lust for more blood. You butchered him? There'll never be no peace. Never can be. Jasper wasn't speaking to Corvus, was barely looking at him. He was mumbling an echoed argument, a memory of a conversation. His eyes stared through Corvus, even as tears gathered in his eyes. The woman bled out, wilted like a cut flower as her soft crying faded to silence. Well, why should we ever expect that? Us, what lives in the gutter, scraping by in the muck and the grime. He pointed toward the dead woman, the unshed tears glistening in his eyes. She was a mother, 4 babes at home. Her husband died in the Shadowmere. Who will care for him now? She didn't even need to die. Not like that. Not here. Corvus didn't have a response. He was too busy holding back the desire to lap up the blood, to take it in his hands and bathe himself in it. Jasper stared at Corvus, through him. Eyes hardened, and he clenched his wand. Voss was right. There can only ever be blood for blood. Corvus readied himself, calling for his blood spread through the bodies of the dead. Threads of blackest night pulled taut a conduit from his body to theirs, the crimson fluid rising up, flowing around the threads of power. Life turned to death, light subsumed by darkness. It was his to command. Jasper fired the wand, a jagged spear of blue-white lightning arcing toward Corvus. With a contemptuous wave of his hand, he pulled on the threads of power, the blood rising, cresting into a crackling, half-formed wave of frozen blood that peaked in front of him, catching the spear of lightning on its curved face. The lightning ripped through it as if it weren't even there, shattering it into uneven chunks that scattered across the room. The wand wasn't just any arc, it was a reliquary. The knuckle dusters had gotten hold of a thrice-damned reliquary, aether-bound in the time of the God King by magics old and strong. He dove for the cover of the wagon, but as he did, the wire of his tether caught him around the waist. For a moment he hung, a slab of beef ready for the carving, before the sparking lightning caught him in the chest. His body convulsed, curling in on itself, every muscle, every nerve, ringing with pain. He didn't scream, couldn't, not with his jaw locked shut and the breath driven from his spasming lungs, but he wanted to. Bloody hell, how he wanted to howl. There was a popping sizzle and a flash of heat from his belly. Orange coils of spiraling, semi-transparent energy burst from his tether. With a grinding clank, it yanked him upward away from the arc of lightning, spinning him around with a savage twist. Wind tore at his clothes and whistled in his ears as he hurtled through the air. He opened his eyes and saw the rafter that he had left, his tether attached to, swiftly approaching. Saw at the moment his body folded around it. He felt his ribs give with a brittle, sharp crack. He hung, limply fighting back unconsciousness, his belt the only thing holding him aloft. With a jolt, his body dropped, falling just long enough to elicit a startled yelp before stopping with a jerk. Corvus groaned and lifted his aching head over the smoking ruin of his uniform to see the tether's silver, frayed wire twisting loose. He looked at the wire in accusation. "Don't," he said with a futile shout as he reached toward it. It gave with a snap. It wasn't the first time he had fallen from a height, so he knew how he needed to land. Corvus twisted with the weight of his body, placing his feet underneath him. The trick was to land loose, absorb the shock with your knees, and roll. But that was also if your body wasn't still spasming from the after effects of being struck with a bolt of lightning. And if you weren't falling 3 stories to a stone floor slicked in blood. This was going to hurt. He landed with a clap, managing to fold his knees and tuck his shoulder. He slipped on the bodies and the blood. He felt his ankles slide, rolling onto bone. There was an audible pop that sent shockwaves up his leg to his hip as he felt the ankle dislocate. He tumbled, a whirling cacophony of black fabric and elbows. With a grunt, his chest slapped against the ground for the final time, blood coating his grime-covered black uniform. His silver helm bounced across the stone, coming to rest against Jasper's scuffed boots before disappearing in a flash of light. Corvus gathered his bruised arms beneath him and struggled to rise. His arm shook, and he raised himself a hair's breadth before collapsing back to the ground with a hard, sharp grunt that feathered the surface of the bloody puddle. Down. Down was good. Jasper stepped forward and squatted by Corvus's head. God King's damnation, you're just a lad. Jasper looked away, a flash of pain in his eyes. I hate killing a man, even if he is a monster and a raven. But we can't have ye getting back to the watch. Jasper whispered. He placed a hand gently on Corvus's battered shoulder and gave it a quick squeeze. Forgiveness, apology, it was hard to tell. Corvus heard him stand and move away back toward the mob. Kill him. Make it quick. After, tie him up with something heavy and chuck him in the river. The crocs and the beasties will take care of what's left. He paused and looked back, his face drawn, haggard. Lucian, you're with me. We gotta move the stuff before the whole bloomin' city comes down on us. The mob circled around Corvus, grim-faced and wary. Their shadows covered him, muting the lantern's protecting light. Corvus heard a rolling grate, saw the tops of the massive doors over the crowd slide apart. There was a clop of horse hooves and the creak of a wagon as it exited. The doors closed again with a thick clunk. There was a slight hesitation from the crowd. No one wanted to approach, not even as he coughed a wet splatter of blood. But a Weasley man with an eager rat-like grin stepped forward. He grabbed Corvus by the shoulder and flipped him around, pinning his back to the floor. He waved a long, thin, jagged blade under Corvus's nose. He leaned in close, his liquor-wizened breath tickling Corvus's ear. "Boss said to make it quick," he slashed through broken, absent teeth. "But I've always wanted to hear a watchman squeal." There was a sharp sound of protest from the huddle of men and women, quickly stifled. Too many eager eyes peered back at Corvus. Too many hands clenched in anger as they gazed at the watchman's uniform and the blood of their friends that coated it. There would be no help from them. This wasn't the first time the Watch and the Knuckle Dusters had come into conflict, and this time it wouldn't only be the Knuckle Dusters who were left broken and bleeding on the floor. The Ratman pressed the tip of his knife against the meat of Corvus's shoulder. He held it there, one finger pressed to the hilt, moving the handle in slow circles. With a flick of his wrist, he caught the handle and plunged the dagger deep. He closed his eyes, a smile of ecstasy flitting across thin lips as Corvus grunted with pain. As the attacker's eyes fluttered open, they met Corvus's, and without the helm to protect him, their souls touched. Winston. The vileness in the man's soul sickened Corvus. It hung on Winston, clung to him like slime and mildew. Images flickered through Corvus's mind, heinous deeds the man had done, his sickening depravity, sins writ upon his soul in dark scrawling ink, punctuated with murder. He saw the dark lurking in Winston's eyes. Corvus licked his lips. This man deserved justice. He had not fallen into darkness because he was pushed. Winston had leapt. He bathed in blood and terror, laughed as he splashed within it like a child in a puddle of rain. He was wicked, just like Corvus. Winston deserved death, and he was going to give it to him. Corvus saw the lurker in the dark still waited, saw it draw a wet, fat tongue across two human teeth, felt more being drawn. He was no longer hidden by the glare of starlight thrumming through his veins. They could smell the blood, his blood. They were drawn by the wrath burning in his heart and the fear freezing his veins, drawn by the angry mutterings from the crowd and the dark lust in Winston. In himself, hunger, madness, rage, they were beings of these emotions, fed on those feelings, and on those that felt. They swam in the Everdark, waiting just beyond the shadows, locked behind barriers, but those barriers had been broken. All Corvus had to do was open the way. His hand snaked up, grabbing Winston by his greasy hair. "Your breath reeks." Corvus sputtered as he spit a glob of blood into Winston's face. Winston's eyes widened, darkened, and settled in fear. He began pulling away, tearing himself from Corvus's iron grip. Harsh syllables sizzled off Corvus's tongue, words old before the world was young, and opened a way to the Everdark inside Winston's lightless, pin-pricked pupils. The lurker burst its way free from Winston's skull with a dull thunk and a shower of pink bone and gray brain matter. It sprung, arms spread, trailing ribbons of black mist and frost from the ruined remains of Winston, and dove into the shadows, pooling at the feet of the crowd surrounding Corvus like a fish diving into water. The screaming started soon after. Convulsing like a wounded animal, the throng pulled back, dissolving into hysteria as men and women began to disappear in confetti of gore that splashed over the lanterns lighting the warehouse, extinguishing their wan light one by one, removing the light that would have burned it. It was intentional, planned, but that shouldn't be. Lurkers weren't capable of that. Winston's body collapsed onto Corvus's chest, a limp mass of meat and bone, a black, growing vortex slowly closing where the top of his head should have been. Corvus stared into the abyss. Silken lines of rime spread from Winston's corpse, the way hanging within his skull, a hungry maw outlined in icicles of blood, thrusting outward like a crimson crown. A skeletal hand forced its way from the swirling maelstrom of darkness and clasped the bony shards of what remained of Winston's face. Then another appeared against the opposite side. Another lurker was coming, forcing itself into this world through the quickly closing way. Corvus saw the fingers flex, pressing outward on either side of the portal, forcing both it and the head further apart with a cascade of crackling pops. There was no light to burn those grasping hands this time, to push it back into the hell it tried to crawl out of. Shade's breath. There was a plan. What in the name of hell was happening? Corvus gritted his teeth as the cold seeped into his already broken body. He felt his emotions riding higher with the presence of the lurkers, fear, foreign and strange, starting to give way to panic. All he wanted to do was shove the creeping horror further from him and run, hide. Let these people reap the rewards of what they had brought upon themselves. Let them die in the blood they had desired. He knew some of them deserved damnation, knew that he would gladly give it to them, but he couldn't. There was enough weighted against him as it was, enough death, and not all deserved retribution. The gates were unlocked, a way open in the heart of Flotsam could spell untold innocent deaths as lurkers poured into the world of light. He had to fix it, erase whatever anchors held the gates open. He began to work his fingers in another complex rhythm, plucking threads of moonlight shadows and shaping them in the air over the portal. Each line, the hue of the dark heart of a glacier, begetting another as it formed into a fractal image of squares upon squares. It formed a thorny mesh, a net of magic, the strands that made the seal growing thinner and less visible the further from the way they spread. Clawed hands of more lurkers appeared at the rift, struggling desperately to push the breach wider. Wails and whispers of anguish and anger hissed forth from within. He laid the lines thicker, pouring more and more of himself into them. Darkness bled into the edges of his vision as he worked feverishly, laying the runes of binding and abjuration etched deep within the sigil. He left the filaments of power overlaying the edges, unbound by its circumference. Once he felt he had enough, he gathered those lines in his hand and yanked his fists apart. The lines of eldritch power caught and held, pulling closed with glacial slowness, sutures mending the tear between the worlds. From deep within the pit to the Everdark there was a barked command. The words were terrible, guttural, and dripping with menace. No lurker made those sounds. There was far too much intelligence behind the syllables. Bloody hell. His blood ran cold. They were stirring things worse, things far more terrible and cunning were stirring within the darkness. It explained the lurkers' concerted efforts. They weren't thinking for themselves, they were acting on commands. An image of a bloody grin flashed through his mind. It was happening again, and he wasn't sure he could stop it. Not now, not with everything else. The incarnate, the unlocked gates, it was a trap, one made specifically for him. Corvus needed to close the rift now. Corvus strained, arching his back in a bow as he flexed every muscle in his body. He screamed in primal agony as his broken body resisted. A hand reached outward from the Everdark. It was clad in armor of gold, grimy, cracked and broken, covered in an ancient patina of darkness. It pushed, fingers spread, wrenching against the net of his power. The entire network bulged outward, straining as the power hissed against that horrible hand. Its clawed fingers inched closer and closer around Corvus's head. A scion, an ancient monster of unspeakable power, was reaching out of hell, reaching out of myth, out of legend, reaching for him, trying to pull him back. And then, with a snap, the way closed. There was a dreadful cry of hate and rage as the severed hand fell on Corvus's chest. He could feel the cold radiating, burning into his skin through the thick wool of his uniform. The hand flexed, still alive, fingers reaching toward Corvus's throat. He flinched, his forearm colliding with the hand and flinging it skittering into the darkness. He laid his head back for a moment, breaths coming in deep, ragged gasps. They echoed in the silence of the empty warehouse. The lanterns were all out, leaving nothing but heavy, oppressive shadows. He had closed the way, but it was a bandage, a stopgap on an open and bleeding wound. It would hold for now, but he needed to find the anchors, find whatever it was that was holding the deathbound gates open and destroy them. But he didn't have time to search them out. There could be dozens, but he had a plan, a dangerous one. Somewhere there was a soft plip, and a muffled whimper as a ripping pop rent the air. The freed lurker was still out there, feeding. Corvus slid himself out from beneath Winston's ruined carcass. His ribs ached dully beneath the cold that enveloped his body, and the dagger in his shoulder sent tingles of pain dancing along his arm. With every movement, he grasped the handle, preparing to pull it, then stopped. Best to leave the knife where it was. Besides, removing it would only make the bleeding worse, and his left arm was already slick with frozen blood. He stood and looked around. Beneath his feet, ice cracked. He saw nothing but carnage. Pools of blood glistened wetly even in the dark. Limbs tossed and forgotten lay scattered like autumn leaves. He saw it all perfectly, each terrible, horror-filled image appearing in crisp detail despite the darkness. Huddled shapes quivered behind crates, too few of the knuckle dusters remaining, their eyes shining with fear. Corvus could smell it seeping from them. It made him hungry. He was far too close to the Everdark, the open gates having drawn him further into that cold, ravenous place than he had been in years. It was an old friend standing with open arms, waiting to be embraced. It was a dagger pressed to his throat. He reached for his flask of starlight. He gave the flask a cursory shake. The heft and slosh told him that it was maybe a quarter full, enough for one long pull, enough to bring him back from the brink, to restrain him, enough for what he had planned. He spun the stopper with a flick of his thumb and brought the flask to his lips. He inhaled, breathing in the aroma of summer grass before tilting the flask vertical. The luminescent liquid hit his lips with an explosion of bliss. He closed his eyes as it burned its way through his gut, starting in his mouth and cascading down through his groin to the tips of his toes. The fear, the hatred, the hunger were all washed away. His muscles unclenched, sending cleansing waves of warmth throughout his body. His chest swelled with the need to move, to act. The pain in his limbs was sharper and more nagging, but it was the reassuring pain of life rather than the cold numbness of death. He pulled hard on the flask, his ecstasy elevating, skin tingling until the last drops of starlight drained out. He licked around the inside of the nozzle, questing for one more taste, and only when there was nothing left did he finally let his hand fall from his upturned face. He was going to need it all, and besides, it felt wonderful. When he opened his eyes, the darkness held its secrets once more. The visions and whispers of the denizens of the Everdark were distant, blessedly far from him, and the frost that had formed on his clothes left damp patches where it had melted. His eyes, which had darkened to midnight orbs, lit from within, shining in the gloom flames of radiant silver. As he slid the flask home within his pocket, he wheeled his helm back into place, no longer bothering with the aid of the summoning forms. He reached into the aether, and with a thought plucked it from that place of light and warmth. The helm appeared on his head with a burst of heat and a flare that illuminated the oppressive darkness and shafts of golden light. From the murk there was a hiss, and then a terrible howl of anger. Corvus's head whipped around as he slipped into a fighter's crouch, pain lancing through his body, nearly driving him to his knees. Corvus could see the lurker through the magics of the helm, hunched over half-eaten remains, hands raised, warding the spears of light from its smoking, burning flesh. It had gorged itself. The flabby folds of flesh now taut with muscle and sinew, faces, human faces, desiccated and rotten, floated within the bloated mass of its torso, jaws and eyes stretched wide. In agony and fear, jagged bones projected through split flesh, creating natural weapons where they jutted from its knuckles. A new arm had grown from its back, stunted and malformed, and a leg now dangled from its hip at a right angle, not allowing its clawed foot to reach the ground. The starlight pounded in his veins, singing sweet songs of power through the pain. "Oi, ugly," Corvus shouted through a bloody grin. The lurker swung toward him and pounced. It moved so fast, faster than an eye could blink, and then it was on him. It tore into Corvus's flesh with frightening ease, striking with the speed and power of an aether-bound Wayne. Rents appeared in Corvus's flesh almost as if by magic, leaving great looping splashes of crimson fanning through the air. All Corvus could do was raise his arm in a feeble attempt to protect his vital organs. He weathered the storm and the pain, eking together the meager remnants of the darkness within him, not consumed by the starlight, waiting for his moment. It struck him with a backhand blow so hard he was pretty sure he shat his pants. He found himself flying through the air parallel with the floor. He had just enough time to think about how much this was going to hurt before he struck the wooden crates. Corvus crashed through them, hanging half in one, a blizzard of straw cascading around him. It had probably saved him from more broken bones, if not some mild internal bleeding. He was lucky enough that he could merely wish he were dead, rather than ending up an uneven pulpy mass smeared across their surface. And with a wry sense of relief, he realized he had not shat his britches after all. Small victories. The beast lumbered forward, quiet as death. It picked him up, and with both hands like a broken doll, claws piercing his flesh with a shiver-inducing snick. Corvus hung there, limp, broken, tired, and bored. "Damn your missing eyes, you pox-ridden horse son. I was saving this," seethed Corvus in frustration. He spit blood and phlegm into the lurker's snarling face. The creature cocked its head, seemingly confused by the lack of fear. Corvus reached a bloody hand into a pocket of his belt and produced the Vespers he had managed to nick before he had fallen from the cart. It thrummed in his hand, a mote of pure energy restrained by a fragile matrix of crystalline structure. The lump was no bigger than the palm of his hand, a hand he raised to hold the Vespers poised between their two faces. How it had survived this long without rupturing, he did not know. Luck, probably. He had always had a bastard's own luck, and with fortune turned against him, things were only bound to get more interesting. It was time to put it to the test. Again. He let the crystal tumble from his fingers. As the crystal fell through the air, shining and sparkling in its own radiance, the lurker released Corvus. Corvus felt himself falling, passing through the air like treacle, and as he fell, he began to use his gathered power, hands working feverishly to shape it a spider's web of midnight silk. But at its center, he poured a small measure of silver light that began to spiral into place, filling the gaps left by the darkness, but bound by its rigidity. Time. Time was not on his side. It was going to be close. The lurker fumbled with the crystal, trying to catch it before it hit the floor. It swiped desperately, grunting, whining. It knew what was coming. Its fingers brushed the Vespers, inches from the floor, sending it spinning. So close. Corvus chuckled maliciously. The Vesper struck the floor with a barely audible crack and exploded in unimaginable fury. The light came first. It blossomed from the shattering crystal in every hue imaginable, a deadly flower of heart-achingly beautiful hues that shifted and shimmered into one another. As the light touched the lurker, it ruptured like an overfull bladder. A half-frozen slurry of stinking yellow pus and dark coagulated blood cascaded over Corvus, who hooked a finger into his net and pulled, inverting his skein of tangled power. The unbound light corkscrewing outward, meeting the light of the Vespers, shaping it, redirecting it away from Corvus even as the darkness enveloped him. He curled into a ball, as tight as he could make himself, pulling as deeply as he could on his power, coating himself in more and more shadows. The air flash froze and melted over and over as the darkness within him clashed with the warmth flowing from the starlight and the Vespers. And then the thunder hit. It wasn't a sound so much as a force, a malevolent hand that picked him up in his arcane protection and shook him like a dog with a rat. He didn't know which way was up, nor down, was not even sure he could produce his own name if pressed. He was lost in an eternity of darkness, floating in the abyss, a storm-tossed sea of sound and pain and terror and joy. And then he was not. He was drowning, lost in the cold and the black, the foul-smelling Elysian churning around him, plucking at his clothes. The end.
No, that's not the name of the chapter, right?
No. That's not the name of the chapter.
Okay. Yeah. Dude, take a drink right now. You need to take a drink of something. Holy shit.
I don't have any water, man. Sorry, that was
you raw dog
anticipated.
podcasts?
Yeah, I do.
Dude, go get something to drink right now.
I don't want to leave. Like I don't want to cause that pause or stick in there.
I want to say the negative things while you're getting a drink, and then say the positive things when you get back. You see what I'm saying? Yeah.
So, but if I leave, I'm still going to keep my headphones on so I can hear what's happening.
Oh, okay. Then yeah, sure. Go get something to drink, and I'll talk about the negative things when you're gone, and the positives when you get back. How's that?
No, hit me with the negative things. Like I want to know.
So the negative things is that it wasn't longer, right? Was the big one, right? No, dude, as always, like it's towards the end there, I was just staring at you. People in chat probably saw it, right? Just longingly. It's just like, it's just crazy. Like you've read stuff like excerpts a chapter before, but like the more it goes, the more it's just like, this came from like your head. You know what I mean? Like it's mind blowing to not just that like the story exists, but the way in which it's portrayed and described. And like, again, like I've said before, not the over description of like Tolkien where he talks about every branch on a tree, you know, but it's not just like, and he stabbed him and he bled, you know, like it's a beautiful roller coaster of description from one moment to the next.
I will say this chapter has seen a lot of revision.
I absolutely believe it. 100%, dude. With that much stuff going on and description needed for things, that precious balance of like, okay, this probably needs a little more, but this one could use a little less. And this one could be worded in a different roundabout way to get that across.
Yeah, it is definitely. And that's part of the reason that I have people who read my stuff. Chapters at a time if I can. Because this one is one I've had people read a couple of times. There's still little things that need to be fixed, like the lightning getting to him. There's too much thought in between when Jasper fires the wand and when it hits. And I've had that comment a couple of times of like, this is a really slow moving lightning bolt. And I'm like, you know what? You're absolutely right. I need to move things around a little bit because it's still good information, right? That there's this reliquary, and things like that. So,
and I thought like having Jasper and Vesper would be confusing, but it hasn't happened yet.
I hadn't thought about that. On the page, right? They're different enough to where it's not.
Yeah. Well, even reading out loud, like there was never like, which one was that? Like they are very similar, but it comes across well, if that makes sense.
It does. And thank you. Yes. Yes. If anybody wants to be a beta reader, just be aware. Most of the chapters are much, much rougher than that. But I am closing in on finishing part 1.
So exciting.
Which is exciting because I've done this revision is probably one of the heaviest that I've done because I've essentially got part 1 done. The end of that was the chapter that I read here a few weeks ago. And I have to change things around because then, of course, I had a great idea, and I don't mind sharing this, right? Because you guys have already heard the chapter.
Taking notes?
Where before it was just an inborn ability of Corvus to be able to suck the souls out of people, albeit one that had been restrained and closed off. And I was like, I don't know if that works. And I wanted to introduce some magical implements that will have some ramifications down the road.
Yes.
And so rather than it being a piece of him, a piece of his power that he's walled off, he's going to get this massive greatsword called Famine. That is...
It's time to feast.
It is time to feast.
Yes.
And it feasts on the souls of other living people and has some other different abilities. That I think are going to make that chapter a little more interesting, a little less inconsequential because it feels like Corvus can't die.
Yeah.
So it'll be fun to play with that.
If I could give one piece of advice, it was going to take up this much of the show, right? For our Egyptian listeners, if you could put in more pyramids, I'd really appreciate that.
There will be pyramids down the road.
But we need to get to those.
We've talked about this before.
I think that's why we moved to 4th instead of 3rd.
Right.
Because we haven't gotten
They're
to the
like
pyramids
not
yet.
enough.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
There are pieces of the city that have different cultural inspirations.
Yeah.
Flotsam being a section of the city that's been walled off is very like bad parts of London.
Yeah.
Right? Where you've kind of got a mishmash of people, but kind of that Western European feel. But the upper crust, the higher parts of that, are a much more Mediterranean, Egyptian, Babylonian, kind of that sector feel to it. And that's intentional. I wanted to give somebody a touchstone where they think, oh, I know what's going on here. Because most fantasy is from a Western historical perspective.
Yeah.
And then kind of go, I'm going to now introduce things that are hopefully different.
Well, comment from Sweaty actually in the chat here brings forth a question to me. His comment in the Discord, in the chat here in the live show, which you all should come and join. You make me want to try writing myself sometime. The space in which you're able to exercise creative freedom seems very appealing. One, it's very nice to say, but two, my question for you, as someone who's spent a lot of time revising things and trying to find your stride, is there a moment where you feel like your styling clicks, where like what you're thinking would be really cool actually is able to flow onto the page better? Instead of you trying to force that out, is there a moment where you're like, okay, I think I understand how my brain and my hands work together to make this story happen?
Yeah. Well, and that's the hard thing.
Yeah.
Right? And it's easy enough to get it to where it makes sense to you and
Correct.
It sounds cool to you. It's getting it to sound cool to other people that is the hard part. Like, and this is me. This is me talking, right? I've listened to, if it's something that you're interested in doing, I would listen. Brandon Sanderson, he's been teaching a creative writing course at BYU for a long time. A very well-known author. I'm sure some of you have read his books. Hopefully you have. If you haven't, Mistborn is a great one to pick up. That should probably be your first one to pick up because it's a contained story. His other stuff is multiversal, like Marvel. And so I'm reading Wind and Truth right now. And even like I've read most of his books. I have an understanding of what's going on. And even I'm going, oof, buddy, like you have a lot of connected pieces going into this. And if you have not read other stuff in what he calls the Cosmere, hard. Anyway, my point was he teaches a creative writing class at BYU, but what he does is he posts that in its entirety on YouTube. So
that is a great behind a paywall, or is that it's just there?
Nope.
Badass.
It is. it is absolutely like whoever wants to go and view it and listen to his lectures that he gives, right? He also gives like a personal, like more one-to-one, like 15-person class that you have to do by application. But yeah, Sweaty says he's reading Mistborn right now. Excellent series.
Incredible.
And so that's a good place to start to get an idea of how do I go from this, what's in my head, to on the page. For me, what you said, was there a point in which that happens?
Where it feels like it clicks, and it's not easy, but you definitely feel like you're hitting a stride of getting that information out.
It depends. It is not a continuous thing.
Okay.
Right? For me, and again, this is for me, it is something that if I'm consistent, it's something that happens more and more often. And there are particular scenes that come out that I am like, this is good. And sometimes it's phrases, sometimes it's just a sentence. A lot of times it's something that'll just get stuck in my head and be like, oh, this is a good one. Earlier, I'm writing a chapter because I'm filling in some gaps that I felt like were missing with Bast, especially. I have outlined my book. That's part of my process, right? I've outlined everything that's happening because at first, sorry, this is a long way to answer this.
No,
the answer to
your
your question is yes, but it takes a lot of work to get there sometimes. If I'm more consistent, it happens more regularly, and I feel like I'm able to get there. But it also still takes a lot of revision.
Yeah.
For me, I didn't spend as much time world building on this book. It was one of those things where it popped into my head, and I'm getting older, and I've always wanted to be a published author. And I figured if I keep waiting, it's never going to happen. But
And
if I actually do it, and if I work at it, eventually it's going to happen. Right?
And that's with Sweaty's thing is like, if it's something you're wanting to try yourself, I mean, just start.
Do it.
Yeah.
Just start.
Just start.
And for me, this was one, I have other books that I have in the pipeline that have more world building attached to them. There's an epic fantasy series that I've done a ton of world building on, and it's much more complex. And this one's actually turning out to be more complex. But for me, I had to start writing it because I didn't have an idea, and it's hard for me to get an idea of a character's voice. Through multiple revisions, I finally found Corvus's voice, and I finally found Bast's voice. Not to say that they always come out the way that I want them to, but for the most part, I can at least write in it and go, okay, here's where I need to fix things. Here's some things that I can work around. And then once I had that, I was like, now I know how this book is going to go. Because at first I really didn't. It was kind of a seat of the pants kind of thing. And so then I went and I outlined everything. And now that I've outlined everything, I'm like, okay, I need to fill in some gaps here. I need to fill in some gaps here. So I do a little of both. And the answer to your question is yes, it requires a lot of work. It requires a lot of study to get to a place to where I can feel comfortable. Like, yes, this is coming out. And there are times where I'm like,
no,
I can feel it as I'm writing it. And I'm going, okay, this is a cool scene. In fact, the scene that I read for you guys a while back where Corvus is going through this prison and just annihilating people, and then he's this dark angel with wings of shadows spreading out behind him, and he's sucking the soul from somebody. I got really good feedback in that. There's some really cool scenes. The descriptions that you got are probably some of the best, right? There's some things that need to be worked on it because there's not enough at stake to keep people moving forward.
Oh, that makes sense.
But, but to answer your question, there are times, yes, where it does feel like that, and it requires a lot of work. It requires a lot of patience and consistency to get to that point, though, is the answer.
Oh, yeah, dude. I like that.
For some people, it's easier than others.
Yeah.
But for me, it requires that.
That's the thing is and again, Sweaty, you won't know if it's easier or harder for you until you just start.
Do it, man.
Absolutely.
I mean, start out. A lot of the practice where I get is DMing, to be honest.
Yeah. Amen. Episode 137 will actually be an episode about the writing process. We have Philip Roth, Suzanne Collins, and Nicholas Sparks on the show.
Hey.
So, should be pretty good.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Too bad we couldn't get Brandon Sanderson in.
Yeah, no, I couldn't afford him.
Fair.
Yeah. Who is it?
It's
What's up,
me.
buddy?
I want to give you a smoochie kiss.
Uh-oh, we have siblings arguing. Choose something else to talk about.
Oh, okay. Well, this is fun. I don't know. I mean, I guess I can just talk a little bit about the writing process. For me, right? And this is specifically for me. I have to write in order. Some people don't. Some people skip around, right? Especially when you have an outline in place. I find it hard to do that. I'm a very chronological thinking person, and especially when I'm trying to lay the groundwork for what could be a potential series. There's a lot going on because I want to write something that is a little more complex, a little more hopefully that gets people wondering and questioning, right? I want that to be a thing where people can read my book and then have theories and discuss about it. Why is this happening? What's happening here? Does this mean this? And is this this? I'm hoping. I mean, who knows? I can be a little scattered, so I don't know if it'll work. But so I write chronologically. So I started from chapter 1 and have moved my way through. Now, having said that, like I said, as I filled in the gaps, as I filled in the outline of what I wanted to happen, I realized, oh, you know what? I need to break this part up. I had an instance where, as I was writing a thing, I was like, oh, you know what? This doesn't feel quite right, and so don't be afraid to change things either. The end. Now that Fudd's back.
I officially have a teenager, and it's a nightmare.
Fun for you, man.
Yeah.
I think I'm just gonna lock Gideon in at a certain point, time freeze him, and then he will not be able to progress to a teenager.
Well, it was like I'd heard people talk about how it wasn't like a slow burn into it. It's literally the wall. And like 4 days ago, coolest, nicest person in the world, right? 2 days ago, it's just like woke up one day and hates everyone. You're like, God damn it. So we'll make it through.
I mean, love you, buddy.
Thanks, man.
Here for you.
I love you too. We'll make it. I'm like a really cool dad. So, you know.
You are a really cool dad.
And if anything else, I've got the old Bing Crosby trick in my pocket. So that should work.
Right. Pull it a sock full of oranges, man.
Listen, people in history love that man a lot. Anyway, yep. So we need more pyramids. I'm actually writing a screenplay for a movie called My Pharaoh Lady.
Pharaoh Lady.
My Pharaoh Lady.
Really like that.
Yeah. Little Audrey Hepburn action. I think maybe like Aubrey Plaza. I think we'll have her in the movie as the main character. My Pharaoh Lady.
So I was on my writing group, and somebody had this throwaway comment of a title for a book that I felt like would be great, where it was like a parody of the Bible, and he called it "Your Lips to My Ears." Which I think is just
it's brilliant.
Great. Yeah.
That's fucking brilliant. Do you know what else is brilliant?
You.
Our very shortened main segment.
Sorry, man.
Or we have a super short show, and that's our segment next week. What do you want to do?
I mean, we have been doing an hour and a half. I feel bad, though, because I read an entire chapter.
I don't feel bad.
And
Sweaty was in it. Like, listen, there's listeners, and we actually have more than you think. But the Sweaty Spook's the only one that matters, and he enjoyed that.
I enjoy Sweaty's input.
Yeah.
Well,
what do you want to do?
Yeah. Why don't we save it for next week? Because I know you got to get kids to bed.
Cool. That works out.
And do we want to talk any more about the writing process? Any questions?
Any questions in the chat about the writing process? Questions about tournament? Questions about... Well, let's real quick. I do want to discuss. We did have as everyone's aware, we have our ongoing campaign in Dungeons and Dragons with Sweaty Spooks, a native raider from the Blueberry Lounge, our good friend Bill Nye's Bowtie from Rockin' the Helldivers too. And we've been able to jump back into that, which has been super fun. But on top of that, the Honkter lives forever. On top of that, though,
the Galusaraptor.
Fucking love that. Love that so much. Dude, I'm very excited for stuff to happen.
Oh dear.
Tomorrow night's going to be fun. Anyway, we did start another D&D campaign within the communities, right? Where this time, Mr. Russell himself, as you've heard his storytelling, is the dungeon master. We have myself playing alongside with my wife. It's her first time playing Dungeons and Dragons. We have Mr. Fluffy Fingers MD from the Potato Thumbs podcast. It is his first time playing Dungeons and Dragons. We have Mr. Eggman 54, who's been on the show, who is Russell's brother-in-law, also his first time playing Dungeons and Dragons. And my older brother, Real Leper, who has played a shit ton of Dungeons and Dragons. So again, I feel like it's a pretty good, fleshed out crew.
It is a good mix.
Yeah. And session 0 went very well, getting everything together, right? Session 1 was a shit ton of fun. Definitely got dark, but I feel like if people are going to get in stride with their characters also, but I like the fact that like shit's insanely dark and we're not like stupid goofy, but like it's a good break. Like how we're going around. Well, like, Fluffy is like, oh, sorry, your guy died. Let me just take his body, strip him naked so I can use it as bandages and then burn him for you in front of your face. Is that okay? Thanks. Bye. And just grabs him by the ankles.
Stone cold sociopath vibes. And it was hilarious.
So good. Almost lost my face to a wolf. We found my wife's dad. Shit got real, but I'm very excited for this campaign as well, man. I'm so excited for both. And it's like every week, and they're off weeks of each other. So it's like one Friday I get a DM with this lovely crew. And the following Saturday I get to play alongside these people while my best friend in the world brings us this epic story. I'm just spoiled and I love it.
I think that it is. Whew. I don't know what I'm going to do with myself because I have things that I look forward to so much.
Yeah.
Like every week, like playing with Native and Sweaty, and Bill Nye's Bowtie, is so fun. And you are such a good GM and there's such a good group. And we've really dived into that kind of role play aspect.
Yes.
And I think that each character has had their time in the sun, and their moments, right? Like Sweaty killing somebody who we had brought up to be like, okay, we're going to make this guy into a thing. He's going to be the guy that stays behind. We're going to make him into like this hero for us. And he's gonna be like this rallying banner for us in this region so that eventually we can come back to it. And then Sweaty is like, you're gonna take me before a king? No, I refuse. I'm gonna kill this guy just to show you guys. But then it felt real, right? Because it was a character acting out of trauma.
Yeah.
Who reacted in a way that wasn't logical but was purely emotional. But then Sweaty was like, let me pull it back a bit. Like,
well, and again,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, and I want to make up for it. And then his coming to us and like doing that, the relationship that Native's character and I have started to build, like where
he just hangs on every word.
Like, I love Ryuki. Like, and I love that dynamic, and I love that Bill Nye's Bowtie, Pwath, is the straight man to all that bullcrap that Perkseris is constantly spouting. And it was crazy. But yeah, I love that campaign, and you are such a good GM because you you have allowed us to do that, and you deal with it in such a good way where it encourages us. And like I can see it when we're like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this thing, and you are like, yes,
let's make this happen.
That, or like I feel like, and tell me if this is true, because sometimes I know I've done this. Like I had not planned. I told Ranger this when we were talking about the DnD session. We're setting up session 0. My plan was to have this creepy dude come in and do this thing.
Yeah.
And I think it was you or somebody was like, is it Eleanor's dad, your wife's dad? And I was like, nope, hadn't planned that, but that's brilliant. I am bringing that in. That is now going to tie into this piece.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, that is a brilliant idea. That is a way to, especially for a new character, to be invested.
Yes.
Right. And you two are the ones who have sent me a history of who your characters are. I already have plans for yours as well.
Let's go, baby.
And it just so happened you were like, is this Eleanor's dad? And I was like, hell yeah, it is. Or like, I mean, it's not her dad, but there's something going on there, right? But it looks like her dad. And then I even talked with her like afterwards, because she had sent me a thing. It was like, here's the history. And I was like, okay, what about this? Like, let me see if I can make some tweaks here. If you like those, we can stick with them. If not, we don't have to. But here's some tweaks that could tie this in and make this part of your backstory. And she was like, perfect. And I was like, yes, you got me so excited. So
I have to tell you, she was also excited. Like, she's been all in. Just, it's been so fun to watch this side of her pop out, right? Usually only get excited when like her tits pop out, but watching this part of her pop out, super fun. Anyway, but no, like she's like, Brett, he just DM'd me story stuff, and I'm so like, when are we playing? I can't wait. I'm so excited. She's like, and she opened her mouth. I'm like, no, you can't tell me anything. Don't tell me a fucking thing. I want to find out in the game. She goes, but I want to tell you so bad. I was like, no, keep it to yourself. But she's just been skipping around, so excited.
Good. I'm glad. So my question was, though, is, as we're talking about stuff, does it give you ideas to be like, you know what? I hadn't thought about that, but that is a brilliant idea.
100%.
100%.
And I will give you an exact example of that. And it's funny because Sweaty and Native are both in chat right now, okay?
Yes. Yeah.
The Shrine of Savras, right?
Yeah.
With all the orcs, you guys clear the shit out, right? At the very end, a familiar figure comes down the road and yells, "What the fuck?" Right?
Yes.
That was originally going to be fucking what's his bucket with the big sword and the mohawk.
Yeah. Phandalin?
No, that's the name of the town. I can't remember his name. I always forget his name, and he's in my notes, but it's on my other page.
Butter Skull Ranch dude.
Butter Skull Ranch dude, right? Because he was going to come in and be like, "We're here to help you guys." Oh shit, you took care of everything, right?
Right.
But I said it, and I can't remember who it was like, "Oh my god, it's the orc from session 1," and I was like,
"Yeah,
that's way fucking better," and that's who it is. So the whole story of you guys creating this guy as a character that comes with you and a clan attached to him is because of your throwaway line where I went, "Ooh, actually, that's who it is." I like that way better.
That was me, because I was like, and I realized afterwards, I was like, I said it, and I was like, oh, it's the orc from the first episode. And then I was like, later, I was like, wait, no, it wasn't. And so when we came into that, I was like, I really, like, it's going to be cool if it's the guy from Butter Skull Ranch. But I was like, I wonder if he's going to go with it being the orc. Because you were like, yep, it is.
Yeah. The second that came out, it was like half a second for it to register my brain. I was like, oh, that's so good. Because no one else but you would have like expected that. You know what I mean? Yeah, and so when it was said, and everyone was like, the fucking orc. Oh, so good. Yeah. And now, I have a whole, because of that and what you guys have done, there is already a giant back arc going on with that guy that may or may not pop up again at some point in time. Who knows?
I really hope it does. I know we set him up to get trained by what's his name, and everything. So I'm just hoping it's a thing. I'm hoping we can check in, because we left something with him so that we could scry back.
It was a part of the Dragon Skull.
That's right. It was a part of the Dragon Skull.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, the shenanigans that you let us get up to, the way that you provide a sandbox is so good. It's something I aspire to. Like, I'm like, what would Fudd do in this situation?
Oh, buddy.
So it's been a ton of fun.
Well, and Sweaty's comment right now is, I love this. It's kind of like the story writes its own story despite what any of us have intended to happen. And that's exactly what D&D is. Like,
yeah.
There are DMs out there that have a very strict, this is the story points we're going to hit, and I'm going to make sure that happens, right? But for the most part, there's a vague outline, right? A couple encounters, you set up just in case people go certain directions. And then as the story happens, you have your main arc you want to hit, but you let the mini arcs happen because of what your players are doing. And if you can pull that off, it's so satisfying and so fun. There's stuff that I wouldn't have thought of. There's stuff that I've thought of that I'm very excited to bring forward. And there's stuff that's been brought forward because I wouldn't have thought of it and you guys did. Like, it's a group. That's the whole point of D&D is you're a group telling a story together.
Yeah. And honestly, when you're talking about writing, it almost works in the same way, right? Or at least for me, that's the way that I find the best. I have story beats, and it's the same way that I DM. I have story beats that I have set up that can fit anywhere, right?
Yeah.
And it really depends on what you guys do and how you do it. Honestly, when we were playing, I was like, I don't know how they're going to get through this fight, right? Because the last time we had that werewolf fight, right?
Correct.
You guys are in this hill, the wolves are coming out of the walls, the werewolf is coming in at some point, and I had it staged to where they were going to come in at certain points. And when we got to the point to where her dad came in, you guys had been messed up.
Cool.
Like, I think you were...
like half my face was missing.
Yeah. And so I was like, oh no, I don't know if they can survive this. Like, when I'd set it up, it was like very nearly deadly.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, I don't know. And they don't have any magical implements. And this guy's immune to everything but magical items or silver. And I was like, ooh, this is going to be bad.
I've made a mistake. Yeah.
And I was like, I had some ideas. And then it was like the torque around his neck, right? And that was like Rothnito, Fluffy, fixated on that.
Oh, so fucking good.
And I was like, okay, if they can do this, that's the thing. This would be a good story moment too. And it's like, when you're writing, a lot of that happens. For me.
Yeah.
Right? There's a little bit of that discovery along the way, because sometimes I'll be writing something, and it's not necessarily that the character does it, although that's probably the best way to describe it. You're like, the character does this, and then you're like, why did they do that?
This? Yeah.
But I really like that they did that. How can I incorporate that? How can I... And sometimes you kind of have to... The perk of doing it yourself is you can kind of go and backfill and go, okay, this is why, this is what leads them in here. This is the kind of character that they're becoming. And so I want to encourage that. And so your characters kind of become like the people that you're DMing, because when you're DMing, you guys do stuff I never thought of, never expected. Oh, yeah. Fairy fire, right? Sweaty using fairy fire. Ugh. Never in a million years would have thought of a way to use that spell like that.
No, 100%, dude.
Crazy smart.
I'm super bummed that every time he's used it, it hasn't worked. Because every time he wants to use it, it's for a really fucking brilliant plan. But sadly, the rolls never allowed to happen. But every time I'm like, yes, this is it.
Yeah. But writing is a lot like that, where it's like, you write yourself... Sometimes I write myself in a corner and I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know why. I want this to happen, but I don't know how to get it to work.
And then one person makes a throwaway comment and you go, oh, my way out. Yeah.
I try to read a lot of books. I listen to a lot of books. I consume a lot of stories, books, movies, whatever. Because as I'm writing, it's inevitable that I'll come across something and it'll trigger something in my brain and I'll go, ooh. That's cool. I like that. Even if it's
Yes.
not necessarily something they're planning on doing, but it's like, ooh, what if they did this? And I'm like, oh, what if I did that? Like, I could do that, and that's really cool.
Yeah, I need to get in the habit. I used to listen to a ton of different like live play D&D podcasts,
Right.
and I'd get a ton of like really cool little ideas to nip off stuff there, but I haven't done that in so long. I really need to do that again.
Part of my plan is because I'm gonna go back and like read or listen to the Ravenloft books for Strahd, because I've used him as kind of an inspiration for some of the stuff that's going on in my campaign and Ravenloft itself. So, yeah, because I want those inspirational ideas that I can take it, make it my own, but keep some of the stuff. Yeah.
Well, before we get out of here, I just want to say for our D&D campaign, which we're playing tomorrow night, very excited.
Dude, I'm so excited.
There are a lot of guesses on where this story is going from you guys, and I'm telling you right now, no one is right.
Really? That wizard dude,
or
wizard
is everyone
dude,
right? I don't know.
Firstly, why do we still have his leg, but he has his leg? Why is he showing up in our dreams?
But does he have his leg?
I don't know. Was he ever missing his leg to begin with?
Yeah, he was. That's how you knew it was his leg, because he was missing it when he first hobbled into the room.
But there was no blood.
This is also correct.
And is he actually a gnome? And have we just been feeding a necromancer high-level monster body parts?
Who knows? I mean, I know, but who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I guess we'll just have to keep going and killing stuff and see what happens, right?
Yeah. It's really fun, and I am super excited. I'm super excited to see Native tomorrow and Sweaty. You guys are beautiful.
Amen, dude. Also, as a DM, I gotta say this with the Honktra, when Native threw the leg that was like his only means of any savior from the Honktra to the gnome. The second he's like, I throw him his leg, I was like, that was the worst decision you could. Like, I should kill you right now. Like, there was a part of me that was like, I should just kill his character.
I was worried. I was like, and then the gnome disappeared. I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Dude, he dies right here.
Well, because I was just like, God, I was like, and that's a tough part, because like you want things to be tough for your people, right? But you also don't want to just like. There has to be a scary part that your character can die, but at the same time, I was like,
right.
But I don't want it to be now. And so you have that power.
You know, and that brings up a good question, right? Because every DM is a little bit different.
Correct.
Right? For me, I like to. Nobody wants to die for no reason.
Correct.
So if they're gonna die, it's got to be a damn good story.
Yeah, amen, dude.
It's for me.
And I feel throwing a leg and getting eaten by a Honktra is not a great story.
No. Although I guess what you could have done. This is, I mean, high state, is if he were unconscious and in a coma, and then we had to find a way to now wake him up.
Yeah, but because of that, it caused me to create some other threads in the backside.
Oh, really?
Story.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
There is some consequences.
There is some things that have occurred because of that I was like, didn't expect that. That was the dumbest thing he could have done, but we're going to roll with it. Yeah. So there's some things that'll happen. Don't you worry.
I'm super excited. I am really excited for tomorrow. I love playing in this game. Native's like, oh, interesting.
Thank you. Of course, buddy. I've got plans for your character to die, and it's not that way, okay? Don't you worry.
Dude, I'm so excited because we've just started to open this up, right?
Yeah.
And Ryuki has given us some of his backstory, right? And we've decided to like eventually we're gonna go and do his thing, right?
Yeah.
We kind of know a little bit where there was somebody who came in, trained the villagers up, they warred against each other, everybody died, something weird there, right? I'm excited to figure out what's going on there. we've started to tie, like Sweaty's indicated that he was taken slave. There's obviously some revenge that needs to be taken there.
Well, and I love with like when he lashes out sometimes that no one in the party is like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, because he's done a way of portraying his backstory in a way that you realize it's a guy who was born and raised in slavery. Like he hasn't existed in society. So like he's gonna be a little weird about things, you know? And so everyone's ability to kind of like, no, hey, let's talk this out. Let's figure out like this is what's happening. This is how you're responding to that, but let's try to go this way of it. And like it's you guys are like therapists to get him through all the fucked up shit he's got going on.
Well, and I love that. I think that's why Critical Role does so well, is because they have characters that are real and that are broken.
Yeah.
And so you can empathize with that. I think that's why Stormlight Archives does well, right? The idea that you have these broken people trying to make themselves better.
Yeah.
Is a compelling story.
Absolutely.
And so I think we've hit on something with that where, and I think that Native and Sweaty's relationship outside of the game comes into that, right? And I think that that's very endearing because Ryuki is always like, "Hey, man, like, I get it. Let's maybe not kill somebody next time.
Yeah,
but let's move past.
Let's try this not murder thing. What do you think of that?
yeah.
Try this on for size."
And I love it, and I love that. I have some stuff like Perkseus has some stuff going on that he's kind of
Perks' backstory is one I want to get into. Via DM, so I know what the fuck to do with it.
Well,
if you could send me some stuff.
Well, because I've told you everything that I have.
Yeah, but I didn't pin it, so it's gone.
Oh, okay. I'll send you.
If you could resend it so I can pin it in our DM, I'd really appreciate that.
I will let you know what's going on with Perkseus.
Is the straight man of the group, Mr. Quiet Quoth, actually the most fucked up ever one? Who knows?
He is very like. There's some stuff with his clan that he's a part of that, like, because we brought up a couple of times, like, hey, you know, we could turn this into a thing where we could bring your clan into it as like a support. And he's like, they're kind of isolationist. Like,
yeah. I really don't want to talk about. Like, there's definitely something going on there.
Yeah.
But in a couple sessions, it depends how, like, obviously how the story progresses. But there is a point where when we reach it, I want to do a podcast episode where we have the full group on to discuss things so far.
Okay. Yeah.
There is a pivotal moment that will occur or not occur, depending on what you guys do. But
I'm down for it. I'm excited for the next time we hit a city, specifically because I know that there's some stuff Perkseus wants to get off his chest.
This is true. And pay someone to put on his chest. He's a dirty bird.
I mean, hey, man.
Yeah, baby.
Throw the leg. Let's do the thing.
I throw the leg to the gnome. What? Everyone's face. Dude, even Bill, who's always sitting down painting, Native, I don't know if you saw it, but you said it, and even he went, what? Just like popped his head up. It was so good. All right.
So funny.
Should we work on getting out of here, buddy?
Yeah, I guess so. We were going to make a short show, and then it ended up being just as long as they normally are.
It still was shorter than if we had actually gone into the main topic, though. We'd be here for another 45 minutes in that case.
That's true. Yeah. And I am starting to get real hungry. My blood sugar is going.
You're going to go some fried chicken, aren't you? You fat sack of shit.
Hey, man. Hey.
Show me your belly right now. You won't. You got your stretchy pants on?
I should. I was really about to do it. I was about to flash you, man.
Cool with me.
I don't think I mean, at some point my son is going to be old enough, and these are going out onto the internet, which does not delete.
This is true. But do you really think he's going to care about you enough to go through every episode?
No. But somebody who is going to want to torture him will.
That's true. Valid. Okay, cool.
Yeah. I'm not worried about him seeing this because I think he'll find it funny, hopefully, and it'll just build our relationship stronger.
Hey.
Probably mostly when he's older.
Quick question. Are you doing anything Saturday night?
I'm babysitting Gideon.
Okay. It's come to my attention during the show that I'm in need of someone to shoutcast the Apex tournament.
Oh,
if you're interested in doing that,
I am. What time?
It'd be your time zone is. Let me pull it up. It's 9 to 11 Eastern, so that'd be 8 to 10.
I think because Gideon goes down at 8, so I should be good because Lindsay's going to be gone.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
You down for that?
Yeah, I'm out for that.
Cool. Yeah, person who is going to do it they're fine, but yeah, they just can't do it now. So that means I get to spend 3 days in a row with you, dude.
I mean, honestly, it feels like lately with our D&D games, the podcast. I mean, like
Star Citizen, Marvel Rivals. It's a lot
I think
of time
we're
together.
spending more time together now than we have in like a while. Like,
I agree.
In fact, this past week is probably the least amount of time that we've spent together.
That is true. Well, and we're about to make up for that in the next couple of days.
I mean, I'm just saying.
All right. So, like I mentioned just now, though, there is for anyone in the live chat. Obviously, this show is going to go up afterwards. But here in a couple of days, this Saturday, the 25th of January, is the 37th Apex Legends Kill Race Tournament. Mr. Rusty Poo is going to be shoutcasting that with me, and we're going to have a good time. There's a few teams that have never played it before, and some people that's still their main game. So it'll be interesting to see how people perform in the different lobbies, because that matchmaking's rough.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we have Lazarus the
I'm
Lich.
excited to watch people play it.
Lazarus the Lich is a solo team on Switch again. And that was a great time last. So it'll be good. It'll be good. And then of course the tournament for Marvel Rivals, the bracket, that'll be on the 8th of February. Again, look for that information. And Rusty, anything you got coming up, buddy?
Nothing coming up.
Okay.
Nothing coming up. I am probably gonna start. Depending, I'm checking to see where TikTok's gonna go. Right.
Well, we got 72 more days of it right now.
Right.
See where it goes.
Right.
So that's 72 days of content you can make.
I'm just saying. I think I do need to start a little something.
Yeah.
Maybe do some YouTube, some TikTok stuff. Just so I have something going. Because I'm saying it right now. I know, like, it sounds like a thing, but I'm saying I'm going to be published because that is my intention. That is what I'm working towards.
And you're talented enough, it's going to happen.
It may take me 10 years, but I'm going to do it. So, yeah, be tuned in, right? We might have some stuff coming up.
Yeah. Biggest.
But right now, no.
Book publisher in the
I'm going for Tor, man. They're the big five. Macmillan. But the publisher, my dream publisher, is Tor.
Tor, okay, yeah. One of the head people of Tor actually is an avid listener of the podcast. So
are they really?
Yeah,
they live in Egypt.
Yeah,
and they're one of the people that listen in.
They're doing a period piece. They're writing, right? And so they're in Egypt to write that, and that's why they found out about our podcast due to our posters everywhere. Yeah,
that's good to know.
Crime has plummeted because no one wants to go on the street and look at our posters. We're heroes.
I mean, they look at me and they go, yay.
That brain and that hair
like going in and throwing up.
Yeah,
I mean,
a lot of public masturbation.
The only thing is really the hair. I am proud of my hair.
As you should be, dude. Again.
It's nice hair.
Well, as someone who has a different name, for every thing you use online, if you made a YouTube, like what's a random other name that would be confusing that you could make for that?
I think I would probably stick with DRJX.
Okay.
Specifically because if I when I do get published,
the Nobel Peace Prize for solving world peace with your book,
it is probably going to be DRJX.
Okay. Who is
or
it?
David RJX. I haven't decided yet.
With what? Okay, we're wrapping up the podcast, and I'll help you. Okay. I know.
I need you to help me
finish off. Yeah. Well, where else can people find you, buddy? if they wanted to.
You can find me here for now. You can find me on Twitter, X, at DRJX. That's JEX0725. I don't post there very much right now. Once I get TikTok, YouTube set up, I'm probably going to be Big Perk. I might do Big Perk. That seems appropriate.
I like that.
I might just have to change all my names to Big Perk. Away
like
from Jackal, go Big Perk.
Go Big Perk. Or go home,
Yeah. I gotta say, like, I have really fallen in love with that character. He is one of my favorite characters that I've played, and most of that has to do with the group and you as a GM, just because he is so fun to play, and also I get to be a Hulk. Yeah, Perk Smash. I get to be a Hulk.
We've gotten to the point where like an NPC will make a statement, and like you can hear the rest of the group go, "Oh, here it comes," and then sure enough, that reminds me of the time.
I hope it's as amusing to everybody else as it is to me.
I love
hope it doesn't.
That's all that matters. What I also love is that you all were here to hang out for episode 136 of Just Some Gamers. Live chat, incredible tonight. Thank you guys so much.
Dude.
Feeding us things back and forth, pumping up Russ. Questions about writing, D&D, the Marvel Rivals tournament, getting set up for the Apex one live as well. Russ, thank you for the extended chapter. I was able to edit create a thumbnail and post a video to YouTube while you read your chapter. So I appreciate you. Yeah.
Absolutely.
If you wanted to watch that video that I did post, though, you can find me all the places: Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, at Elmer Fudd Games. Double D. Yeah. Perk Cirrus. I need you to do this as Perk Cirrus. Take us out.
Join us next week on Just Some Gamers for mutual chaos and utter incompetency.
That sounded like just you did it.
Huh?
I wanted Perk Cirrus to take us out.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
Perk Cirrus. Yeah.
Join us next week on Just Some Gamers for mutual chaos and utter incompetency. Because his accent changes every time, and that was
great. So
the
do his
worst
stories.
I've ever done it.
Actually, that was one of the best.
Thank you.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
I love you.
Just siphon that for tomorrow.
Have you seen? Did you watch Black Widow?
The movie, right?
Yeah. Perk Cirrus is based on Red Guardian.
That makes sense. That makes absolute perfect sense.
Absolutely 100% based on Red Guardian.
I respect that.
That was Scottish Russian. Yeah, it was bad. It was bad, man.
But it was perfect. And I'm excited for us, like in the other campaign, to start figuring our accents and our characters out, and we'll start role playing as well, and it'll be good.
Dude, I'm excited. I'm excited for where you guys are gonna go.
Same.
This is fun, right? You guys are headed off on sorry. Anyway.
You also now have a foot that's more hands-on. I should end the stream.
Yeah.
Well, thank y'all for hanging out. Appreciate you. We're going to go ahead and end the stream. I don't have anyone that's streaming that I'm friends with, so I think we'll just end it. Thanks.
Is there a D&D group playing?
Probably, but then I have to go in there and look, and that takes effort.
Oh, okay. Well, fine.
Yeah. No, we're not about effort here. What do you think I am?
We skip the effort and go to the incompetence.
Absolutely. What do you think I'm doing? Putting together 2 tournaments and a D&D session at the same time?
Absolutely.
Let me guess, he's playing fucking Destiny still, right? Loading. So, just so you're aware, Russ, the running joke is that HD Tech will never stop playing Destiny.
Yeah.
Even when everyone else is leaving. That's his thing.
Right.
Yep. And here he is. Click the link. Love it. All right. We're sending everyone over here to HD Technical. A fantastic guy. And he is, spoiler alert, playing Destiny 2. Hell yeah.
Nice.
Rockin' Iron Banner. Titan Hunter or Warlock. Looks like he's Titan punching things, so life is good. All right, smoochies. Bye.
Bye.